Hi everybody, so we are going to talk today about choosing your subject and evoking emotion. This is one of the most important places to even start. So when you choose a subject, you want something that really speaks to you. If you only feel kind of ho-hum about it, you can't expect your painting to be anything more than ho-hum. So things that we want to think about when we're choosing our subjects is, what was happening. We want to tell a story. Was there some really memorable experience that you've had that you want to then relive, and share with others through a painting? Was it a moment in time when maybe the beauty and grandeur of nature was revealed to you? Was there some incredible interaction that happened that you got to watch between some animals? Do you have a picture that just really expresses a personality of the subject? So we're going to talk a little bit more about choosing our subjects and then how to support the vision we have that really brings that emotion and shares that story. I'm going to tell a story first. So the painting above me, right here, this rhinoceros, is called Sudan Facing Extinction. Now, this painting is one of my favorites that I've ever done, and it comes from one of the strongest emotional experiences I ever had. In 2016, I was in Kenya with my good friend and mentor, Guy Coombs, and then my husband Tim, and then another artist, Bill Ather, and his wife, Debbie. Fun people. So Guy and I went to a special area of Old Pejida where you need to have a guide to enter. Old Pejida itself is a conservancy that you can drive through, and they have incredible success with rhinos. They've got black rhinos and white rhinos, probably some of the most concentrated rhinoceros population that you can see anywhere. So when we went back, we were able to meet Sudan, who came up with one of his protectors and keepers, and they let us actually get out of our vehicle and go touch him. So I got to scratch Sudan. If you watch my rhino chat, so I do the little animal chats where I talked about rhinos, you'll understand my history with rhinos and why I love them so much, and their personalities are amazing. So Sudan was really calm, mellow, old guy. And we went back again, went with Guy in February of 2018 and was hoping to see Sudan again, but we were unable to see him. He actually was suffering from a very bad infection at that point and did have to get put to sleep in March of 2018. He was 45 years old. Now, when I met Sudan in 2016, and I'm sitting here and I'm petting a rhino, and I'm like, I'm my happy place. I'm like, I'm petting a rhino, this is all exciting. So I had all of this just joy and happiness. And then it hit me. I had my hands on the last male of his species. A species going extinct in our lifetime. There's only 2 females left. They can't carry calves. So this is it. This was it. So in all of this, like real high, all of a sudden came the heavy with it. And it was just such an impactful moment for me. Now, when I painted this, I actually painted this before Sudan had passed away, and I knew he was facing extinction. I didn't want to present this as a really dramatic, energetic painting. I wanted it to be a reflective painting. So I kept my values, which is your relative lights and darks. I kept them in a very small value range, and I used calming colors, peaceful colors like blues and grays, and he's just looking off, and we don't know what's ahead for him. We don't know what he sees when he's looking off as he's facing his own end of his life. So it's a very reflective piece, and it's won awards, and it's one I'm very, very proud of. But it all started with a really incredible story, and without that I would not have been able to have conveyed the emotion that I feel the piece conveys. So when we're talking about emotions, I'm just going to kind of show you. So I did a whole series of these little squares, and there's all different emotions that you might feel with this. This little fennec fox, yes, he's very cute, but it's very peaceful. It's rested. He's just sleeping. It's got some, dramatic light with it, but the light's falling on his face where you just see almost a little peaceful smile as he's taking his little siesta with his little tail wrapped around him. This one's very calm. The animal, this is a gemsbok or an oryx, and he's just very relaxed and very, rested position. In the contrast, stormy sky with these 2 mustangs, going at it. This was from Sandwash Basin, Colorado. Sometimes something unexpected. When we think of pelicans, we think of them sitting usually on a big post sticking out of water. This guy was actually walking on the rocks. I call it stepping out. So it was something that was just different, a little more unexpected. When I was in Costa Rica, we were by a waterfall in Fortuna, and we saw this three-toed sloth coming across the vines, and then all of a sudden this little pink little pig nose popped out, and she had a little baby. I call this one Bliss. And it's just really kind of focuses on the love and peace and happiness that this mother had with her little baby. And you can also have stories of survival. And with the red-eyed tree frogs when they sleep are like little blobs on a leaf, and they blend right in. But if a predator comes and disturbs them, they will pop their eyes open, and that bright red eye, those bright orange feet, those are warning colors, and oftentimes will startle and scare off the predator. So I call this one pop, and that pop is actually what oftentimes saves this little frog's life. So when we're thinking about emotions, we can think of anything from things being quiet and calm, or even introspective, to conflict and dominance, force, love, charm, tenderness, beauty, wonder, grandeur, power, courage, maybe even hero, destiny, life versus death, strong versus weak, big versus small, brave, adrenaline, excitement, innocence, curiosity, inquisitive, intrigue, mystery, awe, compassion, grief, loss, peace, hope, warmth, love, fear, discovery, solitude, cooperation, anticipation, surprise, so many different things. I actually kept this little bowl, and when I was thinking about doing this, I just kept writing down different emotions, whether there were things in my paintings, things in future paintings. And they really, it's just amazing to me what we can portray in our art. Cooperation can come different ways. I've got paintings of oxpecker birds on Cape Buffalo, on zebras, and they pick the little ticks off, and they get a meal, and they save the animals from parasites, and so they keep them healthier. I have a painting in mind of some elephants that I got to watch on the riverbank, and a little baby elephant couldn't get up the bank. So one of the older elephants was laying down to the top of the bank. She was completely on her side, reaching down to the baby, while another one was trying to push the baby up from behind. I mean, it was just amazing. It's the family ties and the cooperation. I mean, there's so many, again, stories to tell, so many different ways to do it. So think about this, when you're thinking about, what excites you, what's happening in the scene. Are you learning something about the character of the animal itself? Is something happening? Is a decision having to be made? Or is it to run away, to fight, possibly to interact more? This piece, we're going to talk about format in just a minute, but this is obviously a horizontal format, and that's a bit unusual when we're thinking of our flamingos, which are very tall and skinny. But these two, they're not sexually dimorphic. You can't tell a male from a female. So what's happening here? There's some tension here. This could either be a female approaching a male, and maybe courtship is about to happen, or this could be a male coming into another male's territory and a fight is about to happen. We don't know. It makes you wonder, it makes you ask questions. And also with the fact that it's an unexpected format, which again, we're about to talk about format, that makes you ask, it really can kind of capture your mind, because your mind doesn't know what to make of it. So when we talk about format is basically the size and shape and proportions of your canvas. So when we are picking our format, that can be a very strong support for the mood that we want to convey. Horizontal formats, so obviously we're looking long and thin, are often thought of as being expansive or calm or more restful. Now a vertical format, when you are going tall and skinny, can be dramatic or emphatic or even inspiring. If you think, let's say you think of a lake and mountains, oftentimes if you picture it in your mind, you probably picture it horizontally as a big vista. Now, if we think of redwood trees, which we have a lot of here out in California, the awe of them is the fact they're so tall and we're so small, and just looking up at these enormous trees, it's just breathtaking. So obviously that's something you would want to convey in a vertical. Now a square, like those little paintings I showed right at the start, squares are neutral. I set myself a challenge last year to do what I call my Wild Squares collection, where I did a bunch of square paintings. The emotion and mood of a square format is completely dependent on your subject and how you design it in the space. The space itself is neutral until you start. So other things that can help convey mood are where you put your horizon and your viewer's perspective. So the viewpoint differs. When you have a horizon line that's very low on the subject, then you're thinking more of the viewer is looking down. It ends up being more surveying or expansive. When you put the horizon line higher up, then the viewer's looking up. And that can be more introspective, it could be seen as more intimate, or even can invoke power. So we don't ever want to divide right down the center of our canvas. We don't ever want the horizon centered. And we'll talk about that when we talk about composition and design. How much you crop can also affect the mood. So right now this is kind of an intimate setting, it's just me in the kind of the smaller space. As I get a little bit closer, it can actually get to the point where it's confrontational. So where you can use that, just using your crop can also create power or peace. So that's also something to consider. A quick word of caution about inspiration. When we get really excited about something, we're ready to start, that energy is not going to last throughout the whole painting. Paintings do go through tedious phases. So just when you pick your subject, keep in mind all that energy is great, but you do have to have some dedication and some patience when you kind of get to the rough spots, and at the end you're going to have something that even has more emotion than your original subject did. So bear with me on the journey, but don't worry, we're all going to get those little dips and our little bit lows. The most powerful paintings come from the most powerful emotion. Most powerful emotion is going to come from your own story. So when you can, paint your own story, paint from your own references and experience that you've had. When you can't do that, if there's just something that's just really striking and just really impacted you, we can talk about how to use things that aren't your own reference. We're going to talk about using photos and the goods and bads in one of the next lectures. Okay, so from here, I'm just going to show a couple other examples, and then I'm going to go through a painting checklist with you guys, and it's one we're going to be referring to multiple times. Not everything on it's going to make sense right now, but I just want to throw it out there because it's going to start stewing in your brain as we get moving with things. So I showed you the flamingos that were a strong horizontal. This is a strong vertical, and this is called Brave New World. So it's a baby Rothschild giraffe, which are endangered, and this is something else that I got to see in Kenya. And so the bottom, of course, is kind of cut off just to kind of give you a size difference with this little baby that's born, just the innocence and just the cuteness. He's peeking around his mother's leg. He's got his ears squished down. He's staying very, very close to her. That her tail's wrapped around, so to kind of comfort and give him some security. But he's also curious. So we have this curiosity with this insecurity kind of mixed together. We're going to talk about the sweet spot of the composition, which your focal point oftentimes should be in one of the, if you divide the canvas into thirds, both directions, those intersections are the sweet spots. So he's in one of the little sweet spots. All right. Different ways you can also evoke mood are with attitude. This one is called Better Run. So you can tell the cock of the head, and you're only seeing one eyeball of this Cape Buffalo. You don't want to mess with this guy. He's definitely got a lot of power in him, just in his own attitude. Now, Cape Buffalo and lions have quite the relationship in Africa, and there's a lot of confrontations with them. So I actually made this as kind of a partner to that piece. They're both the same size. This one, that was Better Run, this is Better Hide. And again, it's a really close up crop, which should be intimidating. So that's kind of different ways to use crops, and to think ahead if you're possibly wanting to do a series. This one's Locked and Loaded. So this is an Amur leopard. His tail's flicked up. He's coming right at you. His eyes are again in that sweet spot. And right at me, so there should be some intimidation. This is not a friendly kitty that wants a hug. So you should be able to feel the power behind this animal. So let's go through our painting checklist really quickly. Again, a lot of this we're going to be covering more in depth, so if it doesn't make sense right now, don't despair. This checklist came from a combination of books I've read and a list that was given to me by the late Terry Isaac, who was a fabulous mentor, a wonderful teacher, He's a big loss to the wildlife art community. He passed away a couple years ago, and his workshop was one of the first I went to, and in it he went through a lot of these fundamentals and is really an inspiration for why I'm even doing this class. So first thing, is your reference good? Garbage in is garbage out. If you have a blurry reference, an animal way far away, you have no detail, you have no information, you're not going to be able to use it. Have I created something that elicits an emotional response? Is it a good concept? Does it have a strong design? We're going to talk about that when we start talking about design. Have I captured a special moment? Is the concept fresh? Does it look like something we've seen for the first time? Is there interesting light and atmosphere? Does it convey mood? Is there a sense of action, either actual, implied, or impending? Does it tell a story? The story is so important. Are there any edges or lines that divide a scene in half or equal units? We're going to talk a lot about that because that's one thing we don't want to do. We want to have unequal intervals. Are there any lines or shapes that lead the eye out of the painting? Are there any unwanted visual weights, diagonal lines that lead to corners and act as visual sinks? Arrow shapes that pull the eye off the canvas? Are there any converging lines? Is the horizon line comfortably off-center? We're going to talk a lot about these things as they come up, and we will be referring back to these. Are the distances between the subject or focal point and all four edges unequal? Does it pass the four-quadrant test? Is there a good breakup of space? Are there interesting shapes? Do the negative shapes and abstract shapes lead the viewer's eye where you want it to go? Are there strong value contrasts? Are they strongest at the focal point? Are the values correct? Are there any hard edges where there shouldn't be? Is there a strong focal point or center of interest? Is it in a sweet spot? Does the piece have interesting color? Have I used properties of color to my advantage? Again, we'll be talking about color theory. Have I created a successful illusion of depth in the picture plane? Are there any halos or outlines? Is there unification of the subject and the setting? Is there only one light source? Is there a nice light and dark pattern? Would it hold up as black and white? Are the darks connected? We're going to talk about this when we talk about values. Is the animal the correct scale to its surrounding? Is the anatomy correct? How is the gist, which is a birding term for general impression, shape, and size? Is the attitude, pose, and posture of the animal good? Are they interesting and not static? We don't want an animal just standing here. It's boring. Sometimes you just need to pick up a leg or cock the leg, do something, turn it slightly, do something a little more interesting. Does the subject have dignity? Does it convey emotion? And when you get to the end, does it look the way you want it to? Does it match your vision? Does it tell your story? And remember, we do have to ask ourselves that hard question, so what? Just because something was there doesn't mean you paint it the way it was, if it's just a so what. As John Banovich said, there are no mistakes, only consequences. So we are going to talk a lot about planning ahead and getting our foundation set. So that way we have the best chance of being successful at the end. Next time we're going to talk about composition and design. If you want either the painting checklist or the canvas format list, I can send them to you in a PDF. You just have to reach me either by Facebook Messenger or email me at m.mccune@sbcglobal.net or go to my website at www.michellemccuneDVM.com and you can contact me through there. I will see you next time.